You know, what you see is not always what you get. And that's definitely the case with the Black Label Wobbler. You know, the Black Label Wobbler is, is really kind of my version of the WEC Wobbler. It's my own spin on it, which was kind of a bait that kind of developed way back from the Charlie O and some of the more original baits that were built along this line. But when you look at the Wobbler, you see basically a square bill crankbait. But that's not what this bait is. It's not a true square bill, it's actually a thumbnail bill. But what I really mean by this bait is, you look at this bait and you see a bait that you assume is gonna run, you know, 3 to 5 foot deep like a normal square bill and have a pretty aggressive action. The Wobbler is not that bait. The Wobbler actually will run, you know, depending on what size line I throw it on, somewhere in that like 7 to, if you really push the envelope, you can get it down to about 9 foot. It's not a real wide bait. It doesn't have a lot of hard thump to it. It is basically kind of in between a square bill and a flat bait. I love the Wobbler for certain situations. One of my favorite uses for this is fishing it on, you know, hard spots or an isolated piece of brush, or fishing stumps in that mid-depth range, you know, where I can't get a square bill to them, but a bigger, deeper diving bait like a 300 or a tap out is just too much. This is a really good middle of the road bait. You don't find a lot of crankbaits that fish that, you know, 6 to 8 foot depth range very well, that have a bigger profile like this. Most of the 6 to 8 foot baits you see are smaller bait. They're not real easy to cast, or a lot of them aren't. But the Wobbler kind of fixes those problems for me. The Wobbler's a bait that I really like, you know, in the post spawn, when those fish first go off the bank. I catch a lot of fish, you know, off of hard spots, and when they're first starting to get grouped up before they've moved way out on the main lake. And then in the springtime, the Wobbler is a bait that I really like to throw when I'm fishing like ditches or staging fish, because the bait doesn't vibrate super hard. Like I said, it's kind of more like a flat bait than it is like a square bill bait. So the Wobbler is often overlooked in our product family, but it's a great bait, and it definitely has its time and its place where it is the bait to use. I normally throw the Wobbler on 12-pound test line because, again, I'm typically fishing a little deeper with it. So, you know, 12-pound test fluorocarbon is typically the line that I'm going to go with when I rig the Wobbler. And, you know, it's just it's a unique kind of one in of itself crankbait.